Good morning. We are on a trek, and it's my life's trek. It's an autobiography, and it all started down here in the lower left corner in Reading, Pennsylvania, at the Reading Hospital. We'll get into that. And then first 6 years of my life, from 1937 to 1943, we lived there. And then my dad got a job up in Northampton, which is just above Springfield here, right where the little arrow is at the top of that thing. If I move it, we won't see Reading. So I got this little course line because after Northampton, I get to live in Northampton for 6 years, and then I'm 12. And at 12, we moved to Summit, New Jersey. So that's Summit, New Jersey. So we can pass right over there, because I want to go along the Long Island Sound. And we had summer homes, which one was the summer home of my grandparents, was Fairfield Beach, right along in here, and Bridgeport is right there. So it's just before Bridgeport. I can pick it out pretty well without having a course to get there. I can check it out from the shoreline. And then we go on over here, and on the way over here, and we also, there at Fairfield, just before, Fairfield's just before Bridgeport. And what's famous about Bridgeport is Sikorsky invented the helicopter. So the Bridgeport Airport is called Sikorsky Memorial. Then we go by New Haven. New Haven's along in here. Probably right there is New Haven. That's where Yale is. Then out along here, the Connecticut River goes up and goes through Hartford, Connecticut, Springfield, Massachusetts, and then Northampton. But once we see Hartford, we'll start making the turn here, and we're moving along at Mach 2 in the F-15. And so turning to go north takes a little time, and we take a little space on that, but we'll be able to look out. In 1949 and 1950, the summers we had spent just as the camp family, mother, father, sister, brother, and we had a little house on the ocean there in Grove Beach, which was real close to Clinton, Connecticut. And we'll see if we spot that, and then we go on up. But that was again 48, 49, 49, and 50. We'll get going. Start telling you about what happened in Reading. What I can remember isn't very much. Gear up. Flaps up, make a right turn, and we'll follow the Schuylkill River. And we'll say goodbye to them, and acknowledge that. Pull the power back, and we have to look over this way. We're going to stop right there. And we'll look back here at the Reading Hospital. Is right there. I was born in the Reading Hospital. That was in 1937, May 27, 1937. Taylor Swift was born there, her brother, and then the guy from Pennsylvania, now senator, and that's John Fetterman. Was born there. And then out in here, I have to look across. Okay, Dad's office was probably over here for a company that made sunglasses, Wilson Night Goggles. And then we're gonna turn around and go back. Actually, we can do it from right here. This is our house. Here is the duplex in Reading on Delaware Avenue. I think it was 1415. We were in the left side. Here we are in front of the house. I'm driving my Irish Mail. Oh boy, I had fun with that. On the swing with my sis in the backyard with brother Tom, ready for Little League, which we didn't have then. Then one more in the backyard by myself. I was 4 or 5 when my folks purchased this home for $9,000. It was just 1 block away on Dolphin Avenue. My room was upstairs over the front door there. And I also remember steam engines going along the railroad tracks here. And there was a bakery that did pretzels. Now they have a bakery, maybe the same building. It's called Do-Si-Do. Now here we go. We're going to get going and go to the east, full power, and head for Summit, New Jersey. We'll take a quick stop and see if we spot Summit. It's going to be off to our left. It's going to be right in here. And I can see the golf course. We're going to go right over Summit and tell you a little bit. Here's the Canoe Brook Country Club. Morrison Essex Turnpike possibly is the name of that road that goes to Chatham. Goes out to Chatham. I think this is the high school now. It's right out there. High school used to be downtown in Summit, and we used to live up along the ridge. Let's get that out of the way. So you don't need to answer any unknown caller. And anyway, so that's Summit. We'll get back to that. We maybe have a little story about the Canoe Brook, and I believe we live almost under the airplane. Let's see if we see the field. Okay, see, here's Memorial Field right there. Now we can turn this off because we don't have to look at that. So Memorial Field was right there, and at the top of Memorial Field, right up along here, is where we lived. This was Watchung Reservation back here. So if our houses were, you see a few houses. So we may have lived right there was where our house is on Oak Ridge. Oak Ridge. That was a ridge up in there. Huh. We got to see that. Okay, back to turning it back on. This is going to run a little more than 30 minutes. And we need to be heading east, and we'll look for here's Newark Airport. I flew in and out of Newark Airport a few times, picking up my friends when I was flying Air Chance. Here's Newark. Downtown Newark, and then we'll look for Manhattan, which I can see coming up right over here is Manhattan. And I forget what the stadium is for the football, but possibly we'll fly close to that. Yeah, we're back down to 9,000 feet, which is okay, and we'll head back up. And let's see if we see the stadium. Right, there's the stadium right there that the Giants play in New Jersey. The Giants play in New Jersey. Giants and the Jets. New York Giants and New York Jets. This is the Hudson River right here. And if we look closely at these we'd see the World Trade Center, but we're not down low enough to get the skyline. This is the East River. The Brooklyn Bridge goes right across there. The Statue of Liberty is right there. And we'll go by LaGuardia, which is right in there. And the Bronx, where the New York Yankees Stadium is right in there. So we're going to head over here to the Long Island Sound. And we'll see here is LaGuardia, and by LaGuardia is going to be over right in here is probably the Bronx is right in here. That's over by Queens. The little airport I flew in and out of was right in here, Flushing Meadows. We used to go. That airport doesn't exist. That might be the Whitestone Bridge there. And then the Hutchinson River Parkway, we'd pick up the Hutchinson River Parkway. This is probably 95, but the Hutchinson River Parkway might be up there, and that ran into the Merritt Parkway, and that's how we got to Fairfield Beach. Now I got to start watching for Fairfield Beach, so we'll get a little closer. At Westchester County Airport, right there. And then we'll watch for Bridgeport. And we're going to keep an eye out for what looks like the shoreline for yeah, this may be it right there. I'm not sure. And when we see when we see we're not quite there yet, the Sikorsky Field. There's Westport. We should see Bridgeport here, Southport. Then we're going to see Bridgeport. That's Bridgeport. So right in here, there's Fairfield right there. Right below us. So we had a house. The family summer home was right along in here on Fairfield Beach. I can remember this little creek. We called it the creek that went in behind there. It was navigable for small boats. So that's Fairfield Beach, and then here's Sikorsky Memorial Field at Bridgeport, where he developed the helicopter. He was Russian. He maybe built the first 4-engine aircraft, and they were something to behold. When you look back there. They had a conventional landing gear. They were not tricycle landing gear. They had a tail wheel. So now we're looking at New Haven. It is going to be right in here to see New Haven. And these are just the simulator can be programmed. So these little things pop up. If obviously you don't see stuff like that when you're flying in a real airplane, but they're handy, so I can be pointing things out. You can say, well, does he really know? So that's New Haven, and that's where Yale University is. And then we're going to be watching here for the Connecticut River. But before we see the Connecticut River, we're going to look on here and we'll see Hartford up to our left, and we want to head up to Hartford. So there's Hartford up there, so we want to start a left turn, and then we'll look out here and we'll spot the Connecticut River. But the Connecticut River goes in here, and we'll spot right along, possibly right in there is Clinton, Connecticut, and Grove Beach is right in there. Now I'm going to look here and see if I can get this a little bit lighter. No, that's as light as it's going to get. So it's a hazy day, and we're heading up toward Hartford. So we want to put this on so we see that we're heading for Hartford. There's Hartford right there. Here's the Connecticut River coming up. We can look back down to where it goes in there. Maybe we're a little closer to Clinton. Right along in here was where Clinton and Grove Beach was right in there. Okay, and then we're going to head right up the Connecticut River, go by Hartford. We'll notice when we do that. We don't need this anymore because we got the Connecticut River to navigate. We call that dead reckoning, when you look down and see the ground and know where you are. Dead reckoning. When I was learning to fly, that that concerned me a little bit. Look, we're back up to 20,000 feet. So this is going to be Hartford, right in here, and then we go on up, and we'll see some other cities as we go up the Connecticut River. This should say Hartford somewhere. It's not going to work. We're not low enough to trigger those things. You know, just have to take my word for it that that's Hartford. That's the insurance capital. I think that's what they call it. Then when we get up here, see, now we're heading north. Anyway, Bradley Field. That I may be still in Connecticut. It might be, but then the next thing is going to be Westover Field. But I can remember Bradley Field, and whether there were signs from the yeah, we're not quite to Springfield yet, but we'll see Springfield, and also this is Westover Field, which is an Air Force base. So here's Ag 1 and Springfield. So this was Springfield in here. Springfield is where they invented basketball. Here's the Air Force base, Bradley Westover Field, right there. And then the river starts taking little crooks and dances around a little bit. Get up here, and we're going to see Holyoke. Here's Northampton right there, so we can back off on the power. Should start dropping down. We had already started dropping down. I think I said once that I'd never been on the Connecticut River, but one of my friends, when we get to doing the full thing, and we'll do it in a Piper Cub, that we will fly along the Connecticut River and show you a Garwood speedboat. It's all wood like a Chris Craft, and we got to start putting the wheels down. We'll put the air brake away, flaps down, gear down, get rid of that, and we're going to land at Northampton. So Northampton is right in there. That's the airport that you're talking about right there. So we're going to land right along the Connecticut River, and we got the flaps down, we got the wheels down, and we got to get it down to about 140. So we'll just wigwag here for a second. And come around and land at Northampton. So I believe the Cub, the first airplane I flew in was a Piper Cub, and I believe that was probably out of this airport. And then my dad's company up here, Pro Brush Company, I believe that was a Lockheed Lodestar. That was the airplane they made in 47 and 48, and we probably took off at this airport and flew down to LaGuardia. Oop, truck. That truck threw me for a loop. A very small field here. We're in Northampton. Isn't that funny? I never saw, I've practiced this a few times, so I never saw any traffic on that road. I think the airplane acted like it hit the truck. I think I hit the truck. Anyway, you can get away with that here in a simulator. In a real airplane, you can't get away with that. Of course, if I was flying real airplanes, I'd probably just be limited to flying a Cub at this point. So I had more friends. You've heard pretty much all I can recall about Reading. and then of course I elaborate, telling you about Taylor Swift and John Fetterman being born in the same hospital. The hospital was not the size that it was when we flew over it. And here we're going to see lots. We'll be using the Piper Cub when we do the flyover of Northampton and fly up to my dad's office in Florence, the next town up to the north, a little bit northeast. And here we want to go right here and shut down. There we go. And yesterday I clicked the brake when I was practicing. Here's the canopy, and there's the indication for downtown Northampton, 2.4 miles away, and that would be kind of up to the north, a little bit northeast. Be up there, not quite due north, is probably a little more off to the right. So we'll go downtown there, and that's